So, to start with, Ngarangi, can you tell us a bit about yourself and what your life was like before you broke your hip?
Tēnā tātou katoa. My name is Ngarangi Naden, and I'm here because I've had a hip replacement, a total hip replacement. I'm also a consumer rep for people who have had hip fractures. My tribes are Te Whanawa Apanui and Ngāti Awa on my mum's side, and on my dad's side, Takatoa. Just a little bit about myself. I'm a recently retired school teacher, and I've been in service for 53 years. I've had 5 children, boy, girl, and later on another boy. I stayed home for 10 years to look after them while my husband taught. When my younger daughter turned 5 and started school, I returned to teaching. And I've been teaching with no health problems for so long, very few sick days, no pills, and I played a lot of golf. And then in 2019, I had a TIA, and the year after, 2020, I broke my hip.
So you were living a very active, busy life, weren't you? And I'm sure you weren't expecting something like this to come out of the blue. Can you tell us how that actually happened? How did you break your hip?
Well, on February the 20th, 2020, we were at a batch about 10k south of Opotiki. My grandson was driving a tractor down to the beach, and I noticed a log lying across his path and bent down to lift it and move it out of the way. The log was too heavy, and I dropped it and I fell backwards onto another log. I limped back. Another grandson came and said, "Howie, what's the matter, Nina?" I said, "Oh, lift me up, just help me to get up." So I limped back to the batch with his help and climbed up 2 steps and then collapsed on the couch on the settee. When asked what was wrong, I said that I thought that my hip was broken because I felt a sort of a clunking feeling as I walked back. My daughter-in-law, a nurse, said that that was impossible because the femur is the biggest bone in the body. A more comfortable chair was recommended, but when I went to walk over to it, I was just in so much pain. I went back to the original chair. I couldn't put any pressure on it. And after a couple of hours, my husband and I decided that we would return to Auckland, go to the emergency department, and at the Auckland City Hospital. I stayed in the passenger seat of the car and held onto the door handle going around sharp corners. And after a trip of 5 hours, we arrived at the hospital. An X-ray showed that I had broken my hip, the socket was damaged, and the femur was broken.
I'm wondering whether the message of that is to never believe your daughter-in-law, even if they are a nurse. So Ngarangi, I imagine that was actually quite a shock both for you and your family. Can you tell us what the first few days were like in hospital?
Well, on the 4th day in hospital, Mr. Mark Wright, my surgeon, performed a total hip replacement on my damaged hip. I had a visit from Mark the day after the operation. All was well, and I consider myself very lucky to have had him. Ngā mihi nui ki a koe, Mark, even though you're in England. Thank you very much. Another of my memories is having the physiotherapist encouraging me the morning after the operation to get up and walk. I would have a walking frame and hold on to her and the nurse. That helped. So I did it. I got out of bed with their help and I walked a short distance and I was so glad I did it. I was really pleased. And so after that day, the distance increased and I was able to use the walking frame and get more confident about getting around and getting out of bed. During the first week, I was visited by medical people on different days, implying that as I had fragile porous bones, a course to strengthen them was proposed. I resisted at first because I didn't want to take any more pills, but I eventually gave in. Another memory was how impressed I was with the busyness and the helpfulness of the nurses. At all times, I quickly became an advocate for a pay rise for them. Marvellous.
So Ngarangi, it sounds like you had a really positive experience in those acute days and you didn't mind the physios being bossy and many people are quite surprised when they're sort of told to get up and walk. There's a sense that, you know, I've had an operation, I need to rest, but well done you for getting up with them. I'm interested to know then how you found your time in rehabilitation.
Well, I was in Ward 42 at Auckland City Hospital in a room with 3 other ladies. Lovely. The other people I interacted with were the dietitian. She came over from Green Lane Hospital, and so anyone who had long toenails could have them done. The dietitians were great. In week 2 and 3, I was wheeled up to where they had the kitchen, and I managed to make my own breakfast. The physiotherapist, I had daily exercises to strengthen the leg, apparatus to help lift my leg in and out of bed, using a reacher to pick up things off the floor. So week 1 I had the walking frame, week 2 I was shown how to use crutches, and week 3 I could use those crutches to go up and down the stairs. Doctors came around. They might have been different doctors, but they came and checked how we were getting on each day. It was good. I had a general knowledge test taken by somebody, and I hope I passed. Geneva Home Help was discussed, just discussed. And the nurses were always on duty, available at all times. They're marvellous people.
So Ngarangi, we know that one of the really important times is when you leave hospital, and I think sometimes we can almost make or break that time in rehabilitation as to how well we transition people back home. Can you tell us what happened when you were discharged home and how that went?
I was discharged on the 16th of March 2020 after 3 weeks in the hospital. I was ready to leave. But on March the 19th, the lockdown took place in New Zealand. So people who came to help me, it was limited. On my discharge, I was given the 2 ERAS publications, total hip replacement, and a checklist for patients. I wish I had been given them earlier, as I would have been better informed for my arrival home. The home help offered by Geneva Healthcare and the physiotherapist was much appreciated, but because it became affected by the lockdown. ACC's organisation of my salary payments was well managed by my manager. Really appreciated that too.
So, Ngarangi, we can see, you're looking great. You're looking well. Sometimes looks can be deceiving though. I guess I'm interested in hearing about, how you do feel you're going now, and whether there are, you've got any ongoing questions. Despite having had, some information, are there still some questions that you still would like answered?
Well, I wish I hadn't broken my hip. Yeah, this changes your life. I have come up with some problems which I had to work through, and I'll list them later on. I've had 2 check-up appointments at Green Lane Hospital with Mark and his team. There are no problems, and my hip has healed well, and I've got no pain with movement. So yeah, on the whole, I'm really pleased with how I am now.
And no more trying to drag logs off the beach? So Ngarangi, here you've got a captive audience of people who might be looking after the next one of you, hopefully not you. Here's your opportunity to provide some pieces of of feedback for those of us who look after people like you.
Okay, here are some tips that I've come up with, coming out of my experience since my operation 2.5 years ago, that you might find helpful. Now, inside the house, all these things relate to what I've been doing. Inside the house, when you get home, having someone at home, at least in the first 2 weeks, to talk to, cook meals, make a cup of tea or coffee, do the shopping, keep the house tidy, help with showering. Another way, keeping all pathways clear, removing all obstacles in the lounge, bedroom, bathroom, entrance and garage, making movement easy and removing anxiety over colliding with furniture, etc. Rearranging the contents of cupboards to provide easy access. Avoiding multiple power outlets lying on the floor. Power outlet in my office had leads from the computer, printer, desk lamp, heater and my phone charger. I tripped over one of the leads, landing on my back on the floor, and this resulted in a large bruise near the replacement hip. I was worried that the new hip hadn't popped out. Anyway, I put the power out on a coffee table. Outside the house, I'm interested in gardening. Bending to weed or plant is difficult. I bought a plant kneeler, which was a big help. Using a long-handled shoe horn to help with putting on shoes. Avoiding hanging chains and rope fences in parks and golf courses to protect areas. Don't climb over them, go around them. I thought that I could easily clear the chain fence at Mount Victoria Devonport, but I tripped, fell and bruised my good hip, resulting in a big tennis-sized bruise. On buses, especially in Auckland, if you are seated at the back of the bus, check the layout of the steps before exiting. Using pedestrian crossings to cross a road, as there are no curbs to negotiate. Being careful when pathways are littered with rotting leaves or vegetation. They can trip you up, walk on the pathway. Always check for rails or hand assists when movement is awkward. And just to finish off, the biggest challenge is anxiety. Yes, anxiety has crept into my life as I've tried to address it, and I've tried to address it by coming up with the above solutions to the problems I've come across. Thank you for listening to me. I hope that my experiences will help other people who have had operations too. Ōreira, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou, tēnā tātou katoa. Thank you very much.